Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I am Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Offside, joined on this fine Sunday evening after one of the better weekends in LA sports recent history that I can frankly remember. The Lakers won 2-0. Dodgers won a World Series. I think USC even won, which I don't really care about because I'm a UCLA fan. UCLA didn't lose because they were on a bye. Hell of a, I mean, I don't know what the Clippers did. They don't really count, but hell of a weekend here for the home teams. So today on the show, we're going to be talking about today's win over the Miami Heat. The Lakers beat them 130-120 in a really kind of interesting game for a variety of reasons. We'll talk about Luka's performance. We'll talk about Austin's performance. Got to start talking about Jake LaRavia and ways to get him more involved in the rotation. Bronny, I thought, played good minutes. Maybe he'll come up over the course of the show. Overall, though, my biggest takeaway from the get is that the Lakers were able to win a game comfortably where Luka Doncic and Austin Reaves, frankly, shot really poorly. You know, that they went 5 of 25 from 3-point range tonight and were able to still beat, albeit a hobbled Miami Heat team, but still a Miami Heat team that had been playing good basketball coming into this one. So let's talk about it. I thought LeBron looked to have a different pep in his step tonight as well. So much to talk about here tonight as we head into as we celebrate a Lakers team that is now 5-2 to open up their season. All right, so the final again, 130-120. The Lakers covered. The line, last I saw it when I recorded my preview for Offside, was 4.5. The Lakers covered. Remember, good teams win, great teams cover. If you just want to look from a 30,000 foot type of height, you had really balanced scoring. You had Luca led the way. He had 29 points. Then you had Austin at 26. Then you had LaRavia at 25. Then you had Rui and Jackson both score 15. And Marcus Smart scored 11. So overall, the Lakers spread the ball around. One thing that really blew me away in this one was how well the Lakers were moving without the basketball. Pete and I just on Friday talked about how, if you're not very athletic, one way to make up for that lack of athleticism is to move the ball because the ball can always move faster than the man. And I thought tonight was a good example of that. You had Luca rack up 10 assists. You had Austin finish with 11 assists. And then outside of that, you had Smart with 4. Even Rui had a couple. Jackson had one. LaRavia had a few. Bronny had a couple. Like the ball was just, kind of moving around. They had a total of 33 assists on 48 of their field goal attempts that they made came with 33 assists attached to them. So ball was moving. And, again, this is not the most athletic team. This is one of the least athletic teams, I would venture to say, compared to the rest of the competitor. They're kind of the teams that are contending for a championship. The Lakers are going to be one of the lesser athletic teams out there. And if they're going to make that work, it's going to require some ball movement, some player movement. And I thought tonight was a good example of this, especially against a Heat team that goes zone for as much as they did. So that was good to see. I thought that for stretches of the game, the Lakers allowed themselves to kind of get sucked into the Heat's like run and gun style. Miami is playing at a crazy pace to open up the season. They run on makes, they run on misses, they run on turnovers, they run on everything. They just run. And it makes sense, right? Like Pete and I talked about this again on Friday about how Miami, they don't have Norm Powell right now. They don't have Tyler Hero. Those are their two kind of offensive engines. And so it's like, all right, we just got to get out and go. Good to see Jaime Jaquez play the way that he did. He looked really, really good in this one. Kind of weird that he comes off of the bench, to be completely honest, especially when you have somebody like Pele Larson starting. I don't know. It was weird. But yeah, I against this kind of Miami Heat team and Miami, it's funny. I don't think this approach is going to win very much in the postseason. The talent isn't there either, but running and gunning and just kind of trying to play harder than the team that you're facing, that works fine in an 82 game format where some teams are just kind of trying to survive 82 games. When you get into the postseason and everybody kind of ratchets up the intensity and the discipline, this style tends to kind of dissipate. And but this isn't one of those playoff settings. This is a 1 of 82 type setting. And I thought the Lakers at times kind of sunk into running and gunning with Miami. And then I thought they kind of realized, oh, wait, that's right. We don't have to do that. We have Austin. We have Luca. We have these offensive engines and a system that I think they're kind of rounding into shape with. So it's like, let's just execute and make Miami less comfortable. Whereas if you try to run with Miami, you are inherently making them more comfortable and yourself less comfortable. So yeah, just from a kind of macro level, my biggest takeaways here was I loved the ball and player movement from this one. And I love that the Lakers were able to win a game comfortably. Again, there are disclaimers here. No Norm Powell, no Tyler Hero still early for the Miami Heat. But the Lakers won pretty comfortably and did so while their two best players who were active, by the way, they didn't even have LeBron in this one, obviously. But the two players who were active in this one really didn't shoot very well at all. And so if you're able to withstand that and some turnover issues and a funky approach from the other from the opposing team, if you're able to overcome all of that and still win fairly comfortably to the tune of a double digit win, you kind of got to take it. There are nits to pick, but overall, this is one of those wins that you just enjoy, accept for what it is, and move on and get ready for the next one. Let's talk about Luca. So he finishes tonight 29 points for Luca. It's his first time scoring less than 40, and obviously the first time scoring less than 30. He did grab 11 rebounds. He did dish out 10 assists. He had 3 steals in this one. I was actually kind of impressed with how active he was defensively, honestly, in this game. He had 5 turnovers. So it wasn't the most efficient game for him, right? 9 of 22 from the field, 1 of 11 from the 3-point line. Did shoot 10 of 12 from the free throw line. One of the other things that really stuck out to me in watching Luka tonight was how easily he was going by guys. And this is a good defensive Miami squad, at least in terms of personnel. He's going by Wiggins. He had one play where he had Bam Adebayo stuck in quicksand. Like it was, he's going by guys. And the night, like when you're as big and strong as Luka is, and LeBron's like this too, all you need is a fraction of an inch of your shoulder just needs to barely get by your defender's shoulder, because those guys are so strong that the defender isn't going to be able to knock their shoulder back and get back into the play. Once a guy like Luka or LeBron is by their guy even a little bit, that guy no longer factors into that play. Also because they're so tall, LeBron and Luka are, that it's hard to apply back pressure on those guys' shots because those guys aren't going to feel, LeBron's like 6'8", 6'9". Luka's in that same kind of realm as well. Again, big, broad shoulders on both of those guys. So for LeBron, like it's always been get one shoulder by, put that guy in jail if you want to put him into jail, or just hit the boosters and get to that left leg and elevate off of the left leg. In Luka's case, it was turn the corner, and then even more impressively, he was turning the corner to an extent where he was fully sealing guys. After going by them, so that was really good to see. The defense again, I thought he was really active. There were a few good closeouts from Luka, really getting out to shooters in this one. That was good to see. And like the thing that makes guys like Luka so special is it doesn't matter whether he has his shot going or not. He can be really effective and really impact winning in a multitude of ways. And one of the ways actually that I really love that the Lakers are starting to do more and more and more of is they're moving them all over the court. First play of the game, Marcus Smart brings the ball up the court and runs a pick and roll that eventually leads to Luka getting the ball against the defense in motion. Another thing that the Lakers were doing against Miami zone was putting Luka into the middle of it, and good luck. I think that pretty much ended Miami's zone when the Lakers started going to that. Another thing that they're doing is having Luka set off-ball screens and get off-ball screens set for him, which allow him to catch the ball in more advantageous spots on the court with his dribble still live. And again, if he sets a screen, they can't, like, they have to navigate that screen and do so with real precision and real attention to detail, which if you're focused on that screen, if you have two defenders, maybe even two and a half defenders who are focused on that off-ball screen that Luka is setting and making sure that he isn't, benefiting from setting that screen, well, that's 4, maybe 5 eyes that are focused on whatever Luka's doing over there and are not focused on what's going on, the people who have the ball in their hands or the people who are active in that play or in that set. So the Lakers and Luka specifically, and I think Luka deserves some credit here because this is the kind of thing that it took James Harden, frankly, too long to learn, if he ever honestly did. But Luka being able to impact plays when he doesn't have the basketball makes him so much more dynamic. It makes the Lakers so much more difficult to guard. And the Lakers kind of slowly but surely adding that into their offensive culture. If they're able to do that with Luka, and if they're able to do that with LeBron, and if they're able to do that with Austin, I legitimately have no idea how teams will consistently get stops against them. So Austin, obviously, as soon as Luka got back, we all kind of knew that Austin's production was going to dip, right? And that's just in terms of statistical production, but you still would take it, right? Like you had, Austin plays in this one 38 minutes, scores 26 points, dishes out 11 assists, had 4 rebounds, and only 3 turnovers. He also, like Luka, went 9 of 22 from the field. He made a few more threes, but shot a few more of them. He went 4 of 14 from 3-point range. Did get to the free throw line 5 times and made 4 of those. And Austin is a really interesting dude because the ability to like scale up and also scale down, and not just in terms of like game by game based on who's available, but I'm talking possession by possession or shift by shift, where some shifts he's out there with Luka, some shifts he's out there by himself, some shifts he's going to be out there with LeBron and not Luka, and there are also going to be shifts where he's out there with both of those guys eventually. And his ability to just kind of be this basketball amoeba and figure out ways to help there. Now, the catching and shooting is a little concerning. I would like to see him be more effective as a catch and shoot threat. But I will say this, though, because of how good of a shooter he is, the the teams that the Lakers are playing against, he's a fire alarm shooter to those teams. And obviously you would prefer he starts knocking a few more or a higher percentage of those shots down. But him just being that kind of alert shooter, the kind of guy who, if the other team sees he's open, they have to get on their horse to go out and try to close out. If he can just be that and create space for Luca or for LeBron or for whomever, just by being out there, that in and of itself is winning a bit of a bit of the war. But so basically, Luca comes back. Let's see. So Austin scored. Let's see. So Minnesota was the last game that he played without Luca. Memphis, Luca comes back, and Austin then shoots 2 of 8 from 3-point range. And then tonight he shoots 4 of 14 from 3-point range. So that would make him 6 of 22 from 3-point range in the last couple of games with Luca. And at the beginning of the season, right, he went 1 of 5 from 3-point range with Luca on opening night. And then he went, 2 of 5 against Minnesota. So, like, he's kind of hovering in that 35-ish percentage point. I'm just doing all of that math off the top of the head. You might be shooting a little bit better, a little bit worse. But like, if the Lakers are going to operate at the level that they kind of sort of need to offensively, Austin needs to be absolutely knocked down. And to the point where, like, right now, guys are closing out crazy hard to him just because it's a rep thing. But when you get into a playoff series, eventually teams make tough decisions and they basically say, like, you know what, we have to live with certain things. And if one of the things that teams eventually start to live with is Austin being even somewhat open, that really lowers the Lakers ceiling offensively. So he's going to have to figure out a way to get into a better rhythm as a shooter. But I still thought, though, that he handled the ball well in this one. Um, I thought his defense was fine. He's not exactly guarding. You spent some time on like Davion Mitchell and stuff like that, so he wasn't taking the toughest task out there. But overall, though, I thought Austin was good. I thought Luca was good, and both of those guys, outside of the 3-point shooting, were pretty damn good. And the fact, again, that the Lakers were able to win fairly comfortably, they won by double digits in a game where their two best players go, what was it, 5 of 25, shooting 25% from 3-point range. If you can win that game and not have LeBron available, even against a fairly shorthanded Miami Heat team, that's pretty damn good. That's, again, we can gripe and moan and all that stuff, but the Lakers, I thought, were clearly the better team out there by quite a bit. And if Luca and Austin shoot even decently in that game, this is probably a good 15 to 20 point win. Let's talk about Jake, man. Jake LaRavia, really impressed by him. I told the story. Oh, by the way, I'll remind me in the chat. Somebody, hit me with the chat and remind me to tell my Vince Scully, Kike Hernandez story, because the Dodgers won the World Series last night. But the thing with Jake, and I told the story before about how, like, sometimes guys just need to be told, sometimes forcefully, hey man, you got to be a scorer. You got to be a hooper. You got to, shoot the basketball willingly, because we know you can shoot. And in that game that I think it was a couple games ago, where LaRavia just exploded, he had, a really green light. And I guess he had spoken to Mike Trudell about conversations that he had with JJ Redick and also apparently with Rob Pelinka, and hearing from those guys, hey man, go be you, go out there and don't hesitate, go out there and fire away, because like any possession where he is open and he doesn't take that shot, there's a good chance that the Lakers aren't going to get a better opportunity to score than they did when they got Jake LaRavia open. I've thought that the last couple of games, basically since LaRavia had that really green light a few games ago, those last couple of games, that hesitation is way down, and he is just firing away, or he's attacking right off of the top. And so, like, making that quick decision, making that offense more dynamic, that in and of itself makes him a far more useful player than he was at the start of the season. On top of that, LaRavia does this really cool thing that I wish more NBA players were better at. He never stops moving. In football, there's this thing that they'll say with like tight ends, right? Jason or whichever Kelsey it is, Travis Kelsey, I think it's Travis. But Taylor Swift's fiance. So like he is really, really good at finding little pockets in opposing zone defenses and just sitting down and presenting himself for his quarterback as that like last second safety blanket if need be. And he is really, really good as he's running his routes at identifying that pocket in the zone, whether it be underneath, whether it be over the top, whether it be on the sideline or up the middle or whatever. He is just excellent at finding those pockets in the zone. And LaRavia is very much like this too, where he is really good at just kind of identifying, all right, this is where the help is coming from, this is where the help is currently situated. If I go here, it's going to take them this long to get to me. Or if so and so has the ball on this spot on the court, then we know how much help has to be shaded towards an Austin or a Luca. And if I just float over here, or if I quickly cut over here, or if I just quickly show myself over the top of like, he is just so good when he doesn't have the basketball at making himself available and maintaining himself as a threat. Then on top of that, he actually extends that also to rebounding, where he has very good instincts on the way that the basketball bounces off of the rim. And, whether he shoots it or somebody else shoots it, he's very good at putting himself in pockets on the court that the ball usually goes and finds, right? The cliche is so and so has a nose for the basketball. There's so and so is a magnet for the basketball. And the other end of the spectrum there is like, if there's a weak spot in a lineup, the ball tends to find that weak spot. Well, in this case, LaRavia, is clearly not a weak spot, but he also like has this nose for the basketball and is very good at getting to the basketball at advantageous spots on the court. And look, I like Rui. I think he's made real strides here over the course of his time as a Laker, but he doesn't necessarily have those instincts. He's a good cutter, but that's kind of sort of it, right? He's not very good at floating into space. He doesn't have the kind of quick release to where if he is floating, he can get the shot off. Like, he is very much a station to station player, and he needs his feet set, and he needs that extra like half of a second to get the ball off of his palm and onto his fingertips and off into the air. Whereas like LaRavia, balls in his hands, balls out of his hands so quickly when he is shooting confidently. And that makes defenses have to work that much harder. And I sent this in the lounge Slack earlier tonight, that basically if JJ Redick is like hard pressed, I want to start another shooter with Austin, with Luca, with LeBron, with Ayton. I might be inclined to put LaRavia in that group. Now we need to see more of what we've seen over the last couple of games. And, it might just be outlier stuff here from LaRavia as he is playing a couple of what might be his like better games of the season. But he is so good at finding those pockets and floating into that space and floating into open space and dangerous space, right? Like um my daughter, she's in her like second or third season of soccer. And I grew up playing soccer. So one of the things that I kind of told her, and I try to coach her as simply as possible. And I don't even like really coaching her. My thing with her is like just go out there and have fun. If you're good enough at it, eventually maybe Jen played soccer her whole life. Um, if you're good at it and you have real interest in this, maybe eventually we'll actually coach you. But if there are like little pointers that we can give, we will. And one of the things that I told Avery was like, hey, when the other team has the ball, where does the ball need to go? And she was like, in the goal. And I was like, so go run to the goal when the other team has the ball. And that's how you stop them from scoring. Right. Um, and it worked for a little while. Then one day, uh, like one of the bigger kids in this league just rips one. And fortunately for Avery, she kind of like ducked her head down a little bit and she wound up heading it away. She didn't mean to, but it hit her in the spot where like you would hit a header and you would flick it away. And and it scared her, right? Ever since basically she floats into space but it's meaningless space. She's like backing away from the soccer ball, and it's like, no, you run through the ball, but like with LaRavia, he is excellent at finding dangerous space that he can kind of float into. Runs the court really well. He's big enough to where he can finish. Like Austin had that one lob to him over the top of the defense today, and it was yeah, I'm having somebody in a lineup with Austin, in a lineup with LeBron, in a lineup with Luca, having somebody who has Jake LaRavia's off-ball instincts, both as a cutter and a floater or a relocation shooter, and who also has that kind of quick trigger that LaRavia does. If the Lakers are going to lean into offense first anyway, man, if he keeps playing the way that he has, I kind of sort of wonder if maybe he might fit better in that group than Rui does. And then that allows Rui to operate as the kind of focal point of the second unit and maybe even gives you more leeway to maybe move Rui eventually. But LaRavia has been excellent, and we'll see like how close to the norm this is that we're seeing from him. One of the things that, and I told you guys this over the course of the summer, but I was hearing a ton of hype about Jake. Um, over the course of the offseason. And I didn't want to overhype him until I actually saw him play. And then he kind of like struggled with his shooting and he wasn't shooting particularly confidently, so I was kind of glad that I didn't overhype him, but it didn't change the things that I was hearing about him in training camp and even like the practices before training camp when the Lakers were, running fives as a unit before training camp and practices officially kicked off. I was hearing that LaRavia was really impressing and um it's with this guy and his off-ball instincts and his quick trigger and his ability to knock down shots while shooting the ball so quickly, he might make the most sense for that starting group. I want to really quickly, I do have a couple of comments here that I will get to at the end of the show, but I also really wanted to talk about Bronny slash LeBron. And I thought this was interesting, and you guys can tell me if you think I'm overthinking this. But Bronny played 18 minutes in this game, second most of anybody coming off of the bench, only behind LaRavia, right? Who was really, really good tonight, right? LaRavia finishes with 25 points, 8 boards, a few assists, 4 steals on the night, 10 of 13 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3-point range. I'd like to see that 3-point attempt number go up a little bit. Also shot 4 free throws, made 3 of them. But after LaRavia, Bronny actually played the second most minutes of anybody coming off of the bench. And I'm not saying this is the reason why, but LeBron was like this was the most active I have seen LeBron at a Laker game. And maybe his back is starting to feel better. I think it had a lot to do with the fact that his son was playing a lot more in this game in meaningful NBA minutes. Bronny had that dunk off of an Austin Reaves pass early-ish in the game that LeBron popped right off of the bench for. Bronny had a couple of assists and stuff like that again got the guys off of the bench for. Every time he stayed in front of his guy and kind of closed off driving lanes, the bench was really positive and supportive. And I really think that, like, again, I'm not saying this is why Bronny played more, because it would be pretty manipulative, but and there doesn't even necessarily have to be a direct correlation here. But this was the most active LeBron was. He was, meeting guys, coming off of the court. When the Lakers would force a timeout, he was out there pretty far onto the court, giving high fives and talking to guys when they got back to the bench. Um, there was I think it was Vanderbilt fouled Andrew Wiggins on a 3-pointer, and they were reviewing it to see if he had stepped into Wiggins' landing zone. And while he was sitting there on the bench, LeBron's kind of like giving him shit for like, what kind of a foul is that, And it was frankly night and day between now and the first game of the season when I first started talking about this stuff. And look, if I'm gonna criticize him for that, I'm gonna praise him for this. So I think, like, Bronny playing the way that he did is a good story in and of itself, because it's just nice to see Bronny play that way. I like that they really simplified the game for him, where all of his minutes were next to Austin or Luca or even Marcus Smart or a couple of those guys, right? And it allowed him to just basically be kind of like a rim running guard. I do think, though, that, like, I think it's a couple of factors. Bronny playing tonight, I think, helped a little bit. We've seen recently LeBron tweeting about, like, Austin's performances or Austin's game winners. And he had he's tweeting about Luca's performances, right? Over the weekend, he tweeted in support of the Dodgers, who obviously won their World Series. Like, the way that like, Pete and I were kind of talking about this off of the air, and all of the LeBron social media stuff matters. I'm very firmly of the belief that how LeBron behaves on the internet is a reflection of where his kind of mentals sit at any given moment. And that doesn't mean that, like, those mentals can't change or that his attitude and approach can't change. But I do think, like, over the summer when he didn't acknowledge any of the moves that the Lakers made and didn't tweet in support of anything that the Lakers were doing, that to me signaled that there was some frustration there with how contract talks did or didn't go. And at the beginning of the season, when he was, just kind of sitting there like a statue and taking in the game the way that he did, I thought that was also, and when he wasn't, like, tweeting in support of him, really, frankly, wasn't really even interacting very much with Luca on the sidelines. I thought that was kind of a statement about where LeBron found himself at that particular moment. But now I really honestly believe that he sees this team. They currently sit 5-2 without him. Luca looks incredible. He's going by like legit good defenders. Austin has been freaking amazing so far this season. DeAndre Ayton has met or exceeded all expectations at the beginning of the season. Jake LaRavia, like we just talked about, like the guys look good. The team looks good. And I think he's really sitting there off to the side and he's like, damn, like this team, especially get me back there and maybe make a tweak or two over the course of the season. We have all this expiring money and this team might be able to do something. And I legitimately think that when you see him tweet in support of the Lakers and be this much more active on the sidelines during these Lakers games, if we're going to read, or if I'm going to read into the stuff when he isn't doing those things, I also have to praise him when he does these things. And it was good to see. So Bronny plays really well. LeBron is way into this. It was way into this game. And overall, you know, it was a good night here for the Lakers. So that was really fun and kind of cool to see how he handled himself here. And as I think he's kind of growing more and more open. Like here's a comparison I would draw. Obviously, very different extents to the, you know, the like where LeBron is now or where he has been over the summer compared to like the comparison I would make is Kobe in that summer where he like demanded a trade and he was angry at the Lakers for not trading Bynum for Jason Kidd. And he told Stephen A. Smith that he would play on Pluto if they had a basketball team for him to play for, but he just didn't want to play for the Lakers anymore. And remember, over the course of that summer, the Lakers at one point had a trade lined up that would have sent him to the Chicago Bulls, but that included getting back Luol Deng, and Kobe wanted to play with Luol Deng. And eventually he and Dr. Buss met. They went out to lunch and Jerry Buss basically told him, he's like, look, man, we can't just trade you for the sake of trading you. We can't do it. And I think without having an official meeting about it, I think that's kind of what the Lakers basically said to LeBron over the summer. It was like, we can't buy you out. We can't just give you away for nothing here when we're trying to compete for a championship to kick off the Luka Doncic era, you know, with this actual hard launch now, right? And remember with Kobe, I'll never forget it with Kobe. Bynum comes into that season and looks really good. Took real strides at the beginning of that season. He had great touch with his right hand. He had great touch coming over, you know, turning over his right shoulder with his left hand. He was dunking everything, being super forceful on the defensive side of the ball and rebounding and all this shit. He looked so good. And he looked good enough to the point where it was like, I think it's probably a good thing they didn't trade him for Jason Kidd. So, over the course of the season, Kobe is like watching Bynum play and he's getting more and more and more open to Bynum looking the way that he did and that roster looking the way that it did. And I'll never forget it. They played in Seattle and Bynum played one of his better games of his young career. It's like between like late 20s, maybe early, like low 30s points in that game. He had a double-double, so I think he had like 12 or 13 rebounds, few block shots. Lakers beat the Seattle Supersonics. And you know, Kobe's asked after the game, hey, I think at that point the Lakers were pretty high up in the standings too. I think they might have had the best record, at least in the Pacific Division, if not the West outright. And they asked Kobe, it was pretty deep into the season, and they asked Kobe, hey, you know, how are you feeling about this? Like, you know, you entered the season with that trade demand. Like, where do you currently sit? And, you know, they had just they're coming off of this big win. And Kobe, like, looks into the camera, looks at the reporter, goes, where am I going to go? And it was such a relief. I'll never, ever forget watching that, like, post-game interview. It's like, okay, that's done. All right. Now, unfortunately, obviously, Bynum winds up landing on Lamar Odom's foot, dislocates his kneecap, and is out for the remainder of the season. And you're like, damn it, we're right back at it again, huh? Awesome. Then the Lakers trade for Pau Gasol at the trade deadline. They get all the way to the finals, blah, blah, blah. And that's always going to go down as one of my absolute favorite seasons as a Laker fan, because it was just such a crazy season. And you knew that the implications of that season were going to stretch decades beyond it, not just from the standpoint of like they didn't trade Kobe or that they traded for Powell, but like that was the foundation that they had laid that led to 2 more championships, at the tail end of Kobe's prime. So this, again, not to that same extent, because Kobe literally demanded a trade. LeBron never did that, and I don't think would ever do that. But in this case, I do kind of think that, LeBron was a little skeptical about this roster and was a little skeptical about like the direction of the franchise, and maybe wasn't all that, might still not be, but definitely wasn't at the time all that comfortable with not being the center of the Lakers universe. That is now Luca. He's going through all of these things all at the same time. And now the Lakers sit 5-2. They look really good even without him. Luka, again, looks incredible. And I do kind of think he's warming to the idea of like, oh, these guys might be pretty good. We might be able to do some stuff. And I said it from the very beginning. The Lakers were only going to go as far as, or as they were only going to go as far as Luka, LeBron, and Austin could carry them. And if LeBron wasn't engaged this season and wasn't fully focused and honed in on the team's goals this year, I thought that the Lakers ceiling really would dip. But if he finds himself buying in more and more and more to an increased level, that makes this team very interesting. It makes this season very interesting. All right, let's see what we got here as far as let's see, Eddie Pavicic, I'm guessing. Mark Walter being there to watch his new team get a W after his other team won the World Series a day before is an actual flex. Dude, I saw him there and he was rocking a really cool Dodgers jacket. And I'm like, that is, so I've always had this dumb dream. Maybe one day it'll happen in my career, but I've always had this really dumb dream of like having an LA sports podcast, or being kind of like, LA Simmons kind of deal, where, Simmons is so bought in on all of Boston sports. And I would never be to his level, right? He had a bit of a head start and has founded multiple huge podcasting companies, but like I've just always wanted to be able to talk about the Dodgers and be able to talk about the Rams if I ever decided to pursue that, and obviously talk about the Lakers, and I guess every so often mention the Clippers when Kawhi forgets to plant trees. And like it's always been this deal of like I always kind of wanted to hold that position as one of the kind of voices in LA sports. And I'm watching Mark Walter sit there and I'm like, that dude's not just a voice of LA sports. That dude is like quickly becoming an LA sports icon, where you buy the Dodgers and immediately transform them into this juggernaut. There was that tweet that went super viral the other day where it was like, the Toronto Blue Jays are America's team merely because they were playing against the Dodgers, right? And one of the replies to it was like, you realize they're not from America. The Toronto Blue Jays are not from America. And like the response to it was like, if I found out that the Dodgers were playing the Taliban in a baseball game, I would sit there and be rooting for the Taliban over the Dodgers. So like to basically transform the Dodgers into a team that has that much hatred to it simply because of the level that they're operating at, and then potentially be positioning himself to maybe do that here with the Lakers as well. I mean, good Lord, like if he actually pulls this off and the Lakers become the NBA equivalent of the Dodgers, which is obviously difficult to do because the cap structure is different and and all that stuff. But if he's able to do something like that and actually transform the Lakers into the modern franchise that we have all been begging for them to become, while also maintaining the level that the Dodgers are currently operating at. He also, by the way, owns a big chunk of the Sparks too. So if he's able to bring all of these and build all of these franchises up to the tippy top of their leagues, that dude might legitimately be one of the most popular figures in any given city at ever in like the history of American professional sports. You know how nuts that is? All that would be left to do there would be like to figure out a way to make either UCLA or SC popular again and relevant in the college football landscape again, or college basketball landscape again. Um, it's just like such, like you're saying, such a flex to see him there on the sideline, rocking that. And by the way, like they were showing apparently Dodgers highlights there at crypto.com arena, and people were going nuts for them. I was kind of surprised that we didn't see actual Dodgers players there. They're probably still getting after it in preparation for tomorrow's parade. But yeah, that dude, man, like, now look, if it doesn't work out, then he could become one of the goats in the pejorative form. But if this does work out, he could be one of, like, maybe the goat in terms of professional sports presences in LA history, and maybe even across all of American cities and landscapes, those market sports. Let's see. Yeah, Omaris. Yeah, the Lakers started 20-14 that year. Bynum went down. Then I was yeah, it was crazy. That was such an insane season. The highs of that season and the lows of that season. Remember the low, right? You enter the season at like the one of the lowest points in franchise history, where you have Kobe demanding to be traded in very public and ugly fashion. That's where you start the season at. Then you build up to a point where you have so much momentum that you reach 20-14, and you have one of the best records in the West, and you're riding high, and then boom, Bynum gets hurt in a way that is clearly season ending or season altering. So there's your low point. There's another low point there, and you're all of a sudden freaking out about whether or not Kobe is going to be looking elsewhere again. Then they trade for Powell, which immediately is this shot in the arm, and Powell shows up, and it's like an immediate perfect fit between him and Kobe. So right back up there again. And then you finish the season losing to the Celtics in the finals with this like thudding finality of that season. But it's one of the craziest seasons, one of my favorite Lakers seasons of all time. Might be my favorite Lakers season that did not end in a championship. Just an absolute crazy roller coaster that I think we're all kind of still recovering from to this day. All right. That, I believe, is going to do it for this here episode of the Lakers Lounge podcast. If you haven't already, head on over to offside.gg and sign up for the wait list for that app. We're getting ready to send it into beta mode, I believe, and have testers go in there and see what they think about the content. I'm doing pregame, breakdowns, previews at on the day of these games. I'm doing immediate reactions after these games, and then if anything happens that is worth talking about, either around the NBA that links back to the Lakers, or if there's specific Lakers news, then I'll hop on there and talk about that as well. So check out that. Oh, also, by the way, all of my, as we get closer to transaction windows and stuff like that, all of my exclusive reporting is going to be there as well. So that's offside.gg. So check out that. And until tomorrow, where I believe the Lakers are going to be playing. Are they in Portland? Yep, they are in Portland tomorrow night, which means Raj and I will be live here in the lounge after that game. Until then, have a great rest of your night. Make somebody else's. And I will talk to you whenever I talk to you. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, everyone.